I see you with your.
Hi. Welcome, welcome. We are back with another literary wind down. Hey, Kyla. Hey, Sherry. Hi, Jane. I think this is a conversation that we all are going to enjoy. Setting boundaries. Hey, Kate. I'm having a personal summer. If Hey, Theo. This book, Divana, this book is a must read for sure. So you all know the drill. If you're winding down with something, you can drop it in the comments. It is Wine Wednesday. Kate, I'm excited for this as well. Super excited. Don't you know it, Sherry? Setting boundaries are necessary. Oh, there is Nedra. I keep telling Kyla.
What's up?
Hello.
Hi,
Hi,
how are
how are you?
you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm good. Let me adjust a
Let
little
me
bit.
adjust. I thought I was further
I
away,
know. I
but every
feel
time I
like,
do it, it gets closer.
yeah, I feel like they're changing something
I
here
think they are too
because
because I made sure that I was far away.
I've never had to
But
be that far in my life. Okay, that's better.
okay, that's better, I guess. But that's what I'm gonna go with. How are you today?
I am well. How are
Good.
you?
I am doing fantastic. I just came from vacation, so I'm doing wonderful.
Nice,
I
nice,
am.
nice, nice.
I'm bringing you the tan from Jamaica version of me
Ooh,
too.
yeah.
So welcome to Literary Wind Down. It's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I'm just going to do a quick intro, but I can't think, this is like such a perfect book to close out the month with. And for everyone that's joining live, you need this book. It is absolutely amazing. All the comments are going up. Everyone's like, amazing, amazing. It's such a great, just the guideline, the roadmap, it is phenomenal. And I think a lot of people struggle with setting boundaries.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do. So I am Janice. I am the bookstagrammer behind Spines and Vines, and this is Literary Wind Down on Wine Wednesday. And I'm so happy to have Nedra Glover Tawwab join me for Literary Wind Down. This book, it just resonates so much with me, and I'm so thankful that you put this out into the world.
You are
You,
so welcome.
yes, you are a licensed therapist, New York Times best-selling author, and you've been practicing for 14 years and the founder and owner of the group therapy practice Kaleidoscope Counseling. Every day you help people create healthy relationships by teaching them how to implement boundaries. You've recently been featured in the New York Times, Essence, The Guardian, The School of Greatness, Therapy for Black Girls, which I absolutely love, and The Skinny Confidential. You have a very popular Instagram account, which I'm sure everyone on here absolutely goes to every single day, where you share practices, tools, and reflections for mental health and host weekly Q&As. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything. And I'm so happy that you're here. If you're winding down with anything you can share with the group, I'm just going to jump in and tell them what they're putting in their comments, what they're winding down with. So for me, I'm not a really huge fan of Pinot Noir, but this decoy from Duckhorn, is very nice. And so that's what I'm winding down with. For the first time, I'm featuring a Pinot Noir on Literary Wind Down. So that's what I'm winding down with. So let's jump right in. Can you tell us a little bit about your origin story and what led you to write Set Boundaries, Find Peace?
Well, I am from Detroit, and I did not grow up knowing I wanted to be a therapist, but I grew up loving to listen to people talk.
Mhm.
And so I think all of that practice made me a therapist. And when I was in college, I started setting boundaries. And I didn't know that it was boundaries that I was setting. I just knew that I was frustrated with people asking me to do things that I could no longer do, to be in spaces that I could not be in, just all of this stuff. So I was like, no, I can't. Please don't do this, blah, 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 blah. And when I went to grad school, they suggested if you're going to be a therapist, you should go to therapy. And it's free. It's free at the college. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to go. And I did not know why I was going. I was just like, I'm going to go and talk about stuff. And when I went, I started talking about my relationships with other people and how I was trying to, express my needs and make requests and how they were pushing back. And the therapist talked to me about how normal that is and how I had the right to tell people no. And I was like, I do?
Right.
And it was just eye-opening. And since that time, I have just been like, you can say no. And sometimes people won't like it, and that's really tough. It doesn't mean that I need to say yes.
Right.
And so when I began my work as a therapist, some of my first clients, they had boundary issues, and I saw how important the work was. At that time, we weren't calling it boundaries. We were calling
Mhm.
it like all this other stuff, setting expectations and all of this other stuff. But my first client, it was a family who they were very enmeshed, and someone was trying to leave the nest, and that was very problematic. They didn't want that to happen. They didn't want this person to have this individual identity. So
Mhm.
I was helping them with boundaries. And from that, I just learned so much about the importance of us being able to express our needs and that it's okay for us to have them.
Yes. I think that's so important for people to hear. I think I always say my life changed when I learned the power of saying no.
Hmm.
It definitely did. Later in my life, but definitely life changing when you learn the power to say no. So, can I ask a question about in these times, we switch from being in person and going to more virtual. How has the shift been for you? And are you seeing, how are folks doing during this time? Do you think they're adapting well? Are they reaching out more? What's your experience been like?
Mm. At the beginning of the pandemic, so 2020, March, April, May, it was extremely busy for us therapists. Oh my
Can
gosh.
only imagine.
It was very busy, but I would say things are sort of slowing down now because people have become accustomed to what it is. And, if you're in the US, you are experiencing a bit more flexibility and freedom. So people are not as anxious about like the beginning stages of things.
Right.
Now, many things are about I'm not ready to go back out. How do I transition? Or how do I get back to, going to the office for work or socializing? Just all of these things that we've stepped away from. And for some of us, it's been very comfortable for us to be away from some of
Yes.
these things, right? And
Yes.
so just the idea of moving back towards those things, yes, that has been heavy in conversation lately because some of us are ready and some of us are not. And it makes sense. We found out maybe new things about ourselves that we
Hmm.
actually like watching TV on the weekends instead of
Hmm.
going to whatever. So yeah, this will be really interesting to sort of see how we step into what's next.
Right. And so I think the question that everyone may have right at this very moment, what are boundaries?
Hmm. So, boundaries are your own personal set of expectations and needs for yourself that help you to feel comfortable and safe in your relationships with other people. Those boundaries can change over time. They can be different with different people. You can modify them as needed, but it is your own sort of instruction manual.
Mhm.
And it's so important that we really focus on your own, because sometimes we will say, well, I wouldn't care if so and so did that, so why do they care? Because that's their boundary. And it
Right.
doesn't have to be your boundary. We can all be very different, and that is okay.
Hmm. So I'm going to pull out a couple of quotes that I have here. The first sentence in the introduction, boundaries will set you free. Can you expound on that a little bit?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that out the gate, that's what you said. And that's just like, wow, very eye opening.
Yeah, I think so often when we exercise our power to choose, we really take control of our lives. So
Hmm.
often we feel like we're in these situations that we are forced to be in, these relationships we're forced to be in. We follow, rules that we make up as if they are laws, as if, if we don't do this, something will happen. And to some extent, there can be consequences for not doing certain things or being in certain relationships. But lots of times we are following protocols that don't work for us. It just doesn't work anymore.
Yes, it's so true.
And we need to speak up in order to experience the freedom in some of our relationships. When we talk about, oh my gosh, how do I deal with this friend who does blank? You know, first we have to acknowledge that dealing with anything is a choice. And then if you decide to deal with it, you have a choice in how you deal with it. So just exercising the power of boundaries, you do find a freedom in your relationships with people and your relationships with yourself.
Yeah. I'm going to read a couple more. You said, clarity saves relationships. I mean, you gave so many gems. I mean, I highlighted, I tabbed. Um, your boundaries are not going to be appealing to everyone else.
Hmm.
Please share. I think
Hmm.
this is such an important one as well because it's really not about other people, it's about you.
Yeah. Yeah, it goes back to, it is your own personal, it's your personal thing, and we are all so different. I can think of tons of boundaries that other people have that I don't care about, right?
Hmm.
I can think of boundaries that I have that other people don't care about. And it's really based on what feels comfortable for me. And it's really nothing to do with you. It's based on my experiences, my beliefs, my thoughts, my framework. And if it's not harming you, I think the best thing to do is to honor it. Sometimes people will have boundaries that are just unreasonable. But
Yes.
lots of times, boundaries can be reasonable and we're still fighting people. We're fighting
Yes.
people over, why do I have to wear a mask? Because it's a sign on the door and it's a pandemic. Like, I mean, you could fight that, but you want to go in the store.
Right.
Like,
Absolutely.
is there some harm in you not doing it? I'm not saying that you have to wear a mask in your car or wear a mask, but there are certain spaces that you may have to wear one if you want to enter because they have a boundary. Now you can fight them on their boundary, but you also won't be able to come in a store.
Right.
so so it doesn't have to be that you have to
Yes.
agree with, understand. You just need to sometimes follow the boundary. If
Follow
it's
the boundary.
not going to harm you, follow the boundary. It's like everybody stand up. Why I gotta stand up? Okay. Um, is your knee hurting? It's like,
Yes.
why can't you? Like, what is that? But we have to realize that with some personalities, and I talk about this a little bit in the book, that some people are just disagreeable. It's just
Yes.
it's just within their framework to say why. to not go along with something, even if it is reasonable. And so you have to be very conscious of how you set boundaries with those folks, because those folks do tend to be a bit more defensive. And so you have to, be very careful and delicate, but you can still set the boundary.
And I have to say, I feel like I have very clear boundaries on a lot of things. But what your book did for me was just to give me a lot more clarity, and also help me. The exercises I love, the quick tips at the end. I mean, it's just, you teach us how to say things. It's just a lot of reaffirmation. And so I appreciated that. But I heard you say this on a podcast. We may not know what we need, but we know what we do not like. So what about people that don't know what they need, but know that they need to set some boundaries?
Well, I'll tell you one place where we can really discover some boundaries, the things we complain about.
Oh, well, true.
When you find yourself complaining about something, or you find yourself complaining about someone, especially if this is like, oh my gosh, here she, like constantly, that is probably a sign that some boundaries are needed, because you're frustrated, you're agitated, you're annoyed. So lots of times you may not know, like, what should I do here? But you know what you don't like. You know that you don't like this person always, asking you to do more work. You know that you don't like this person trying to tell you how to use your time. You know that you don't. So what's the opposite of that? I don't want them to tell me to use my time.
Right.
So the boundary is really the solution to the problem that you're having in these situations. And so if it is, a situation that you find yourself chronically sad, upset, frustrated, resentful, talking about constantly, there are some boundaries needed. What would help you to feel better in this situation? What would make your life easier? That is where the boundaries lie. And I think so often, again, going back to us feeling disempowered, we feel like people just have to be able to do certain things. We can't tell this person to show up on time. We can't, and lots of times you can. Lots of times there are certain, there are tons of things that we can say to other people that's not like, oh, often when people are like, I can't set boundaries, it's so hard. A really helpful thing, and I mentioned this in the book, think about all the boundaries people have with you. People have tons of boundaries. Don't eat in my car. Take your shoes off. Show up to work on time. At 5 o'clock, do this. I need you. They have all of these boundaries. Yeah. And here we are, afraid to tell someone, I won't be able to help you move this weekend. Meanwhile, this person just told us a year ago they wouldn't be able to help us move.
Yes.
And we like, I don't know how to say it to them. Say it the same way they said it to you. Give them the same energy. Give them the same energy right on back.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. But and not in a tit for tat way. If you can help them move, help them move. But there are times that we're afraid to set boundaries with the very people who have boundaries with us.
Absolutely. That is a word. And what do you do when you've set boundaries, but they're being violated? How do you shift it? And during challenging times, what do you do when your boundaries are being violated?
I think the first thing to do is to restate, just to make sure they understood you. Because sometimes, people forget. I like to think that people are generally good. And we can forget stuff, especially when it's not our stuff. You know how you try to learn something new or stop a habit, right? Like I've just practiced stopping tons of things, using profanity, eating candy, all this stuff. I go back to it, but but when you're stopping a habit, it's really tough. If you try not to use profanity, it's like, yeah,
it's very tough.
It's tough,
yes.
Right? So I want you to think about that as you're asking someone to demonstrate this boundary, right? It's tough to break a habit because some of the things that people do to us is just habit. Some people call us and they start talking about themselves without asking about us out of habit.
Yes.
It's not that they, terrible people and they do it to everybody. It's that they do it to you because that's the rhythm of the relationship. And so you just have to remind them, hey, is this a drive-by? Hey, are you going to ask about me? I'm fine too. Like you just have to jump in there and, you can say it in a very light way. Um, but I think you have to remind people because sometimes people forget. Now that's the ideal scenario that they just forgot.
Right.
Now you have some people, they haven't forgot anything. And
Absolutely.
they just will not listen to your boundary because they don't want to.
Hmm.
They just don't want to.
Right.
And that's when you get to, oh gosh, what I do. What do I do? What is the consequence? Why should they listen to your boundary? If they can have everything that they have now and respect your boundary, what's the point of respecting your boundary?
Oh my goodness. Absolutely.
I think about this often. We get bill reminders every single month. You know why? They don't trust us. They
Hmm.
don't trust us to say, you know what? Nedra will go ahead and pay her bill on the 15th. No. They say, Nedra, bill on the 15th. If you don't pay by the 15th, by the 30th, we will charge you a bit more extra. If you don't pay it by then, we have now tacked on $3. They don't trust you. This is their boundary.
Hmm.
Here are their consequences, clearly laid out.
Right.
Every time you get a bill, you get a credit card statement. If you do not pay this in full, you will pay this amount of interest. If you don't pay it on time, you will pay. Boundaries laid out, consequences laid out, right? And
Right.
so I think sometimes when we are operating with people who do not want to respect our boundaries, we have to lay those consequences out as well. The really hard part is follow through
Yes.
because you can't give a consequence without issuing it and holding that consequence with people.
Hmm.
So um, I remember when I was a kid, my mother, she used to do this really funny thing. It's the funniest thing ever. She would say, now she's taking me to school, right? She would be like, if you don't get ready, I'm going to leave. And I'm like, girl, where you going to go? Like, you taking me to school.
Right.
Of course, she never did it, but I'm like, what is she gonna do? Like, just leave?
Leave me there.
Just leave me there? But she would be like, if you don't get ready, I'm gonna leave. But you know what? What she would do that was very effective. She would set that alarm, or no, she would set the alarm early, and then she would fudge the time. So she'd be like, get up, come on, let's go. It's such and such time. You
Yes.
getting ready, you running, and you like, I got 30 minutes. That was her way of setting some boundaries so I'm not running late in the morning.
Yes. Understood. That's yes.
So we have to think about, what can we do on our end and what can we request of this other person, because sometimes we want to maintain a relationship with a person who can't, uphold boundaries, and that's okay, right?
Hmm.
What can we do on our end so that our boundary is not being violated? For example, if we say to someone, I'm going to tell you something, please don't tell anybody else. Please don't
Oh,
tell anybody else. And they tell somebody else.
all the time.
Yeah,
All
yeah.
the time.
Oh,
Yes.
oh, I know a few people who can't hold water. I wouldn't tell
Yes.
them anything except I'm drinking water.
Yes.
Um, I think the boundary on your end is to not share with them things that you don't want to share with other people
Hmm.
because they have proven and shown that they cannot uphold that. And at some point, we are choosing to have our information shared if we keep telling this person because we know that it's hard for them to not share this with someone. And sometimes people don't do that maliciously, they just really can't keep a secret.
They cannot. Yes. And we know that, but still tell them things.
Oh yes, yes. I've heard some secrets. Don't say I said nothing. I
Yes.
love those kind of secrets. You like, oh, you okay, you telling the secret. Go ahead.
And then if you're telling me the secret, what makes me think that you're going to keep something that I tell you?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yes. So yesterday, I think it was yesterday, you posted something so powerful. I talked about this earlier. No. Ways to say, can you just expound on that? Because I think a lot of people have trouble saying no. They feel like the bad guy, they feel guilty, or have to give an explanation as to why. But you gave some clear examples, very clear. And that's one thing I love about your Instagram. It is straightforward, it's very clear, and you give instruction. And so can you talk a little about that post, because it resonated. I bookmarked it. Yeah.
So the post was, what to say to people when they won't take no as an answer or something like that. And I think so often when they don't take no as an answer, like we stop telling them no. It's like they've won, they won't listen, let them have their way. And then meanwhile, they just keep getting on our nerves forever and ever and ever. And we have to be really consistent. We have to be consistent. And so we have to repeat ourselves. And I think in that post, I put, about 5 things. And the last thing was just no. Because sometimes people can't hear us because we're saying too much.
Repeat that.
People can't hear us because we're saying too much. We love to speak in paragraphs.
Yes.
When we trying to explain ourselves to people. We love to give them the backstory, why we did it, why we thought of it this way, what we were wearing, what scents were in the room, who had the best candle, and then a boundary. And then we back to the whole stuff. And they are so lost.
Yes.
Because we have just had them travel way over here. And all you needed to say was just no. Just no. And I think sometimes it does make sense to, maybe give people an explanation or say more. And you really have to think about, is this that situation? Because every situation is not. Some people is really just no. I have toyed around with, just a few weeks ago, I had a boundary I had to set with someone, and I needed to do it pretty soon because they was making a request, like, let me know. So I said, I'm going to sit on this for 24 hours. And I was going back and forth, like, should I say, no, not this time? No, this doesn't work for me. No, I'm going through all these things, and I ended up just texting, no. No. Yeah. Because all the rest of the stuff really didn't matter. I just wanted you to know, no, I could not do that. I could not do that thing. And perhaps, maybe in the future, if he asks again, maybe I'll say yes. But just, no. You asked me a question. It was a yes or no question. It's a closed question. Yes or no. It's just no. That is the answer.
That. I love it.
It wasn't an open-ended question.
And so you talk a lot about navigating boundaries within relationships. And I think this is another struggle. More importantly, family boundaries. Parents, in-laws, siblings, holidays. I did a lot of, I think as I was having children, a boundary that I had to break with like extended family, or a boundary I had to set, was that we were no longer going to be traveling for the holidays. I wanted my kids to be in their home on Christmas morning. So, then it was a whole uproar of, breaking tradition, all that kind of thing. So can you talk a little bit about that? Because I think it's so important. And when I read that section, I was like, wow, this was me many moons ago, breaking the tradition of traveling on Christmas Day.
I think traditions are a beautiful thing. And
absolutely.
What's really beautiful about traditions is when we utilize the ones that work for us and not the ones that we have done that no longer work. Because we certainly don't want people out here churning butter on Christmas morning because in 1852 that was a tradition. We don't have to do that no more. So we don't let that one go. We can let out a lot of other ones go. Okay? Um,
Oh my God.
so we can certainly adopt new traditions when needed.
Yes, we can.
We can. Your grandmother did it. My grandmother did it. Your mama did it. Everybody. We all do it.
Mm-hmm.
We all come up with a little something different, and we
Yes.
do it based on what works for us right now. And I think that when you start to have your own family,
Mm-hmm.
you really must absolutely think about what you want your family to be like.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
And I, I can't, I'm from Detroit, and so the holidays are cold.
Mm.
Christmas, Thanksgiving is cold. I
Oh,
like it. I like me a little white Christmas. I love it. Um, But we hopped around. You go over Auntie so and so house, this
yes.
person house. You getting all these plates. You go home. You got 5 plates. You got to. Well, her dressing good. Her dressing not good. You got to do all that stuff, and that's fine. But you have to figure out if that's what you want to do today.
Right.
And
Mm-hmm.
if that no longer, it's. I think about this, especially when you have kids. I'm not dragging kids, to find
Yes,
out.
absolutely.
So you figure out what works for you. When you have a partner, you figure out if you want to go to their family house, stay at home, travel,
Yes,
uh go to your family house, go to a friend's house. Like, there are so many options.
there is.
So with holidays, it's really about exploring what feels good. Some of us do want to be with family and really get
Mhm.
into what we've always done, and some of us do not. And we can, exercise whichever choice works best for us. And that can be a little challenging for family to deal with those shifts, but eventually those things smooth over if
They do.
we let them know. I think the biggest thing with that is letting people know in advance. Sometimes we are so afraid to just let people know I will not be home for Christmas that we don't tell them until the week of Christmas. We've
Right.
known all year.
A whole year.
All year. We already got a vacation booked to Mexico. And
Right.
we let them, oh, I'm not coming home. What?
Mm-hmm.
So I always say, the sooner the better. Let people know what you want to do, and even when you visit with family, it's okay to stay in a hotel. It's okay to ask them to stay in a hotel. It's okay to shorten your trip. It's okay. Like, all of these things, you have to figure out what works for you, and you know what works for the other people you're traveling with.
Mm. It's so empowering. I mean, I found it was very um, extended family. I'm talking like cousins and aunts. I'm talking about my mother and my father. Of course, I'm always
Mhm.
with them, during the
Mhm.
holidays when my dad was alive. But it's just like the extended family expected you still to travel, long distance and be. So I had to set that boundary that, like, no, I'm not doing that anymore.
Mhm.
Not when my kids were little. So if my kids want to go there now, they're grown, they can do that. That's up to them.
Mhm.
Let's talk about navigating boundaries in other relationships, romantic, friendships, and work.
Mm.
Mm.
Which one of those do you think is the hardest out of those three?
Oh my good. I'm gonna say romantic relationships.
Mm.
I think
Yeah.
friendships are hard too, but I'm gonna say if the audience would agree with me, let's talk about romantic relationships. And also, you guys, if you have any questions, I know you've been putting questions like in the chat rolling up, and I've missed a couple. So if you could put them in the question box down at the bottom, I'd appreciate it, and then we'll get to those. Oh, someone said work. Another one said friendship. So I'm gonna let you decide.
Ooh.
Work. Another work. There's another
Let's
work.
talk about friendships, because right after family, I think the longest type of relationships we've been is friendships,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because we get friends in what, preschool, kindergarten, so we've been somebody's friend for a very long time.
Yes.
Um, Here's one of my boundaries right now. This wants to cut off Instagram because I've been on here an hour and a half.
Oh yes.
Uh, um, so in friendships, I love to think of friends as, the family that we choose. It's someone who's so we deeply connect with, is someone we have these common interests with. And these things can shift over time, of course. When we're younger, we tend to be friends with people who like to play with Legos like we like to play with Legos, right? You
Mm-hmm.
get a little bit older, your friendships evolve to, this person, we have this in common. We, all of these sorts of things. And when you get a little bit older, an adult, we really pick friends based on personality, right?
Mm-hmm.
You do a little bit of that in your teenage years, but you're a little more conscious when you're an adult. Like, oh, she be mean, she be, all this stuff. You start picking people based on personality, and sometimes personalities change. We've met people early in life and they are a little different than what we would want right now. There are some things going on in their life that impact the relationship. There are things that are going on in our life. Perhaps we've discovered different things that we like. There's so many things that impact friendships. But the biggest thing is to make sure that you are selecting people well. That's the first part. You selecting a good group of people.
Mm-hmm.
And then once you do that, make sure that they know who you are. And they know that by you being vulnerable, you talking about yourself. The other day, I won't say who it was, but my friends and I were talking, and I told them I didn't like some music artist that everybody loves. And they were just, oh, I can't believe it. I won't even say it again. The way they responded, I might be. But anyways, they were just, I said, are you guys judging me? And they started laughing. I said, I feel judged. I don't know if I can tell you anything personal anymore because your reaction. Now, I was joking, but I think it is important, maybe to say that to people. If it's like, I want to share this with you and I understand this is not something you're into, but please respect it.
Mm-hmm.
Please try to be open-minded. You may not be into polygamy and your friend is. You may not be this and your friend is. Sometimes we have to let people know how to treat us because they don't know outright. They think it's okay to say certain things. They think it's okay to talk about certain things, but maybe it's not, and it's okay for us to let them know, hey, here's my boundary. I don't want you, telling me what I need to do with my husband.
Oh,
That's we draw the line right there. Now you can talk about the people on TV and what they need to do with their husbands, but um, I can't see this. Oh, I missed that. But
I saw the question that came up. This good question came up in the comments, and I want to mention that question.
yes, that's one of my friends right there. She said, I remember you told me a long time ago about holding on to people who you've had a long history with. And we do tend to do that because we remember the good times with some of our
Yes.
friends. It's like, well, they've known me since ninth grade. And it's like, you not the same you and she not the same her.
Mm-hmm.
So,
True.
you may need to transition. And I think sometimes we can keep in touch without being in touch. And so there are so many ways that we can, transition in relationships without ending things in a,
Mm-hmm.
big way and all of this sort of stuff. We sometimes have to come in and out of things. I've noticed that there are times with friendships that I'm really, really close to somebody, and then it kind of, something happened in life, and I back up a little bit. I'm really close again. It really depends on what's going on with people. And so, as friends, we have to be open about one, the people we're selecting, and we have to be very vocal about our needs and our boundaries because just because you're my friend doesn't mean that you get an all access pass. Perhaps there are things that um, are off limits and we have to set that protocol. I like to make people know like, hey, this is my birthday, this is really important. You don't have to give me a gift, but you could shoot me a text, you can write me a card. That's an important thing for me, and I will do that for you as well. So I think it's really important to let people know what you like, what's important, so they know how to treat you. We can't assume with a friend, with a partner, with a coworker, with anyone that they just know, because lots of times they do not.
Yeah, I like that you say lots of times they do not. But my birthdays are a big one for me. That's a huge boundary for me. Like you missed that, you messed that up. It's a wrap. It's just it's
I'm
no. I'm
I'm
big
not
on.
typically I'm not particularly upset by the birthdays. And I was just joking with a friend the other day. I said, you may get a gift every 5 years from me, because my gifts are based on energy. Like I
Yes,
saw something you like, I might send it to you on a day that's not your birthday, or I might send it on a, but I don't know. But I will say, yeah, I will say happy birthday and that sort of thing. But the gift
yes.
part, is really based on energy. I saw something you really like, so I got it
And it's
for you.
yes, it's not about the gift. It is that I think it's
Yeah,
the exchange, the acknowledgement. I think that's
yeah.
important. Someone said in the chat that was rolling up, and I thought this was really good. How do you set boundaries when you are personally in the middle of depression and anxiety? How do you?
Mm.
And that was I thought that was really interesting. That's a good question.
I would wonder if you're setting boundaries or avoiding people if you're in the middle of depression and
Oh,
anxiety, because sometimes what we think is setting a boundary, particularly with mental health issues, could be avoiding. I think the setting the boundaries piece would be telling people how to support you during this time.
mm-hmm.
It could be, I'm feeling really depressed and anxious. Is more helpful if you call me in the morning, or I would like it if you check on me once a week, or let me decide if it's something I want to come to or not without questioning me about saying no, because I'm still feeling really socially anxious.
Mm-hmm.
Like all of those sorts of things can be some boundaries. Um, but I would want to make sure that the boundary is not stay away from me, because then that's avoidance, and that's actually not a boundary.
Right. And so, would you say that's unhealthy? An unhealthy? Because
For for men
you talk
for
about the healthy versus unhealthy boundaries.
hmm Yeah, for mental health it is, because I think one of the indicators of like depression and anxiety is avoidance.
Mm-hmm.
And so often when someone is depressed or anxious, they avoid their friends, and that's not necessarily a healthy practice. I've noticed that when people want to be more social, that's when you see them coming out of that depression. And so if you notice someone like avoiding, and they're like, I'm just setting boundaries, I'm not being around people, that is not necessarily a healthy boundary when you're going through those sort of things.
Right. Um, I'm going to go to a couple of questions, but another thing you said on the podcast I thought was you talked about being in relationships and your partner, and you said, there are boundaries. We don't watch the same thing. We have our own space. We have different things. And so I thought, your approach to that was also very interesting as well, talking about the boundaries within relationships with partners.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay. I think you expounded on this. Someone asked the difference between avoidance and a boundary.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, any advice on boundaries and co-parenting with someone who doesn't respect my boundaries?
What podcast did you listen to? Because someone asked that.
Oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to. Goodness,
Was it the therapy for me on therapy for Black girls?
it wasn't therapy for Black girls. Was it a guy named Scott?
Oh, Scott Kaufman.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's called the Psychology Podcast. I'll
That's
find it and I'll put it up.
okay.
I've been doing a lot of
You
podcasts, so
have, and they have all been fantastic. I want to find the other one. I watched like a couple of them, but I need to go watch the one for therapy for Black girls. I didn't watch that one, but the Scott one was really good
yeah,
because you talked about saying your name wrong,
I did.
and
Yeah.
that's boundary.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And I had one of those mamas. I'd be out, like giving my little phone number out, and if a boy called and said the wrong name, she don't live here. Ooh, that just broke my heart. I'm like, please let them mispronounce my name, please, please. She don't live here. I don't. This is before caller ID and all of that, so I was just sick. I'm like, oh, take me now. I've survived,
So
but
co-parenting and boundaries.
yes.
That was the question.
So, I think the challenge here is more for you to have boundaries with yourself and not the other person, because in that situation, people can be very combative. And it is very challenging to set boundaries with a person who is not going to adhere to any consequences because they don't have to, and there's really no benefit for them to, other than the child. But
Yes.
they have to agree with that. And so when you're dealing with a difficult co-parent, a lot of it is around you managing your energy with this person. I will not I will not respond to them trying to bait me. I will not withhold information because they're being nasty, because for my child, they need to know this information. I will not, I will.
Hmm.
Those are a lot of your boundaries in that situation, because for that person, it's going to be very challenging to hold them accountable when they don't have to be.
Oh, goodness me. We need a whole set. I need a whole session. Um, Someone asked, doesn't love get in the way of setting boundaries?
Mm.
Mm,
Love is boundaries.
say that again.
Love is boundaries. I mean, I can't imagine. Really, we call it, in my line of work, we call it neglect if you don't take care of people in a certain way.
Hmm.
Being boundaryless, that's neglect. Just allowing anything to happen, anything to flow, that's not healthy either. I think we've went too far. We call that like permissive parenting. We call that emotional neglect, and all of these sort of terms, because you do need boundaries. Kids do need to be told go do your homework, because if you never grow up being told go do your homework, you may get some pretty bad grades.
Hmm.
You may get some pretty bad grades, and then people go, well, where was your mom? Why did she? Oh, well, she just let me do whatever I want to do. That would be considered um, not a loving act to allow somebody to do whatever they want to do. So boundaries is love. You
Hmm.
can lovingly um, make requests. You can lovingly have expectations of people and encourage them to be a better version of themselves without um, being demeaning, being mean, and all of those other sort of things. But the boundaries, that is an expression of love. I think that if I am setting a boundary in a relationship, I am trying to be in the relationship.
Yes.
Be concerned when I have no boundaries. that means the boundary is not to be in this relationship.
I was just getting ready to say that means this is getting ready to get cut off.
This is not a relationship anymore.
One thing I absolutely love on your website, you put your personal core values. I I'm gonna make myself a list now after reading yours. And so, why did you feel the need to share and do? Because you're number one, minding my business.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
regulating my emotions in a healthy way, having open mind, upholding my boundaries, always seeking to evolve, practicing acceptance even when it's hard, finding the courage to do something about things I complain about, expressing self-compassion and compassion towards others.
Yeah. So the first one, minding my business. I think so often there are things that I don't really care about. Like I care about them for me, but I really don't mind if other people do certain things. Like I have some very clear preferences for myself.
Yes, this
But
is
for
me.
other people, my question is someone being hurt? Is someone being harmed? Other than that, it's like, hey, do you?
Right.
I think there are some things that is like, okay, now you're impeding on other people here. But a lot of things that we worry about with other people. Her boyfriend loud. She got a lit. That's her eardrum.
Oh my
He's
goodness.
not gonna be yelling in my ear because I'm gonna leave. I got about 2 seconds. I'm like, okay, see y'all later. He is loud. But I don't, if you want to live with a loud person, that is I don't need to bring it up to you. It doesn't have to be my problem. These are your things. It's only my problem if it's in my space.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of these things, they're not in my space. And so I have to be very conscious of, what is my issue. I remember I had somebody once complaining to me about how they didn't like somebody's boyfriend.
Yes,
Don't
this is a common one. This is common.
don't date them. Like don't date. Like there are tons of things that this person may have, or qualities that you don't even know about. All you see is them in a social interaction. Meanwhile, they can do a mean cha-cha slide. They can make the best omelet ever. They can, like, I don't know those things. So unless there's some abuse or,
Mhm.
these sort of things, not my business.
Yes, that's me totally. Um, I saw that your hobby is reading,
Yeah.
and you read about a book a week. And you
Yeah.
said, I feel like I need to read more. So,
Oh,
what? Give us a book recommendation. I saw that. So anyone that doesn't know, if there's you talked about trauma and boundaries, but you gave 4 book recommendations a couple of posts back a couple of days ago. So go look for those. But give us a
mhm.
book recommendation. I know what your favorite books are.
Mm. I have so many. Um, I would say all of these books on this shelf are my favorite because I don't keep books I don't like.
Mm,
Because I only have so much space. I don't want to get another bookcase. I don't want to, I try to keep books that I like, I enjoy, I'll go back to.
hmm
But I don't like to just have books to have book, and I do a lot of audio books as well. But I would say um, books I really like. There are so many. I would say recently I've been really moved by Think Again by Adam Grant.
Okay.
I think that's an excellent book. Unwinding Anxiety is a really good book. Um, Alex L, who I see here in the comments, After the Rain.
And she was just
Um,
on earlier for Literary
yes,
Wind Down. It was
yes.
absolutely amazing.
After the Rain is a really beautiful book. Hey, Amber. I think After the Rain, she has a section in there where she talks about her relationship with her mother, and I think it's so good. And I talked to
Hmm.
her on her Instagram about that, but that's a really good book. Um, I'm really liking Black Girl Call Home.
Oh, yes.
Oh, I'm reading that so slow, honey, because I'm just savoring it.
Yes.
Let me read one page. I just want to read one page every day for the year. It's so good.
It's
Those
so good.
it's so good. My ultimate favorite is the autobiography of Malcolm X. I have a copy of it right there. It's such a good book. Oh, if you want to
Yes.
know about evolution, people's ability to change, people becoming more of themselves, how you could go from a gangster, a thug, and become a prophet. I'm like, whoo, it's a good book. I love it.
And
I
the
love it.
audiobook is phenomenal.
Isn't it?
Yes.
I love Their Eyes Were Watching God for the same reason. It
Hmm.
just, it's really a story about discovering yourself through relationships. How she had, she was forced into this relationship because people told her, you need to just get married. So she just married somebody who could take care of her. Then she married somebody else who could take care of her, and he was just mean. Then she married for love.
Yes.
And that's when she really found herself. I love it. But there are so many good books. I have a link to Bookshop in my highlights where I all the books I'm reading this year, read
Good.
last
Because
year
people are
in
asking.
sections. Yes,
Yes. So
yes,
go
there
to
are
her
so many
page
good
and go
books.
to her bookshop. Alex L. wrote After the Rain, and they want to know who wrote Think Again.
Adam Grant is Think Again.
Okay. Good.
Unwinding Anxiety. This is just the cover, not even the book. Judson Brewer. The book is such a pretty color. I had to take the cover off because it's like a nice orange. So it's back there in the orange section.
Okay.
But Yeah, there are just so many great books. So check out my bookshop list. And from time to time on Instagram, I do highlight books that are really important in a particular field. So I may say these are great books for trauma. These are great books for a
Yes.
morning routine. These are great books for anxiety. So I have that all on my Instagram reel.
Alex said we need a book club. Need this
We
book club.
do. We do.
We're waiting on you. We will all join. Absolutely. We need a book club.
Oh gosh, we do. We do.
We were all in agreement. So before we close out, this question keeps coming up. It's in the chat, and I don't want to ignore it. But how to deal with difficult and persistent people?
Mm.
And then that's one that.
You know, it goes back to deal with. Deal with equals choice.
Mm-hmm.
What are your choices here? You can deal with a difficult person or you cannot. If you choose to deal with this difficult person, how can you make the situation better? Because chances are this difficult person is not going to do it because they are bent on being difficult.
Mm-hmm.
How can you better be in relationship with this person? I think sometimes we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be in constant contact with people we don't like. You know, we'll talk to them 5 times a week. Ooh, they get on my nerves. Hello, you know. You know, you only gonna get on my nerves once a month. Yeah, you only gonna get on my nerves bi-weekly. You
Yes.
will not be getting on my nerves daily.
Yes.
You know, there are a lot of things that we can do with ourselves if it's a relationship that we have to keep and we feel like we have to be in it. There are lots of ways to modify the things that aren't working for people that we want to be in relationship with. And it's really about noticing your capacity. I talk about this a lot with people around the holidays. When you go home for the holidays and you notice yourself just getting so frustrated with your brother and his nonsense, how many days have you been there? I've been there 3 days. You need to leave after 3 days.
Yes. Yes.
You've reached your limit on day 3. You don't need to stay for 4. So
Yes.
plan your trip for 3. So really noticing your energy, you know, the times of day sometimes that you can talk to difficult people, the topics that you can talk about with
Oh
difficult
my goodness.
people. There are
Yes.
just some topics you can't bring up. I have some people I'm like, oh no 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 no, we not, nope nope nope. Tell me about cutting your grass.
Yes. Talk about what you can talk about with difficult people or negative people. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I cannot. Okay, you guys, here's the book. Set boundaries, find peace. We all want peace. I highly recommend that everyone gets this book. Gift it
Yes.
to your difficult people. I mean, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Everyone go to her Instagram, Nedra's Instagram. There's a lot of helpful information there. If we didn't answer all your questions here, we only had an hour, but I cannot thank you enough for joining me. It has been such
You're
a
welcome.
pleasure. And
This has been so good.
I thank you so much. You have helped so many people, and especially me. I enjoyed this book so much, and I'm
Yes,
gonna
yes,
keep. It
yes.
stays on my desk. Your book and Alex's book are like right on my desk every day. I pop in read
Yay.
everyone every day. So, thank you so much for being here.
You're welcome. Bye,
Take care. Bye
everyone.
bye.